Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics, everybody. We're thrilled today to have on Laura Fredricks. And she is an author, and she's just written this book, Hard Asks Made Easy: How to Get Exactly What You Want. And she trains and she coaches businesses and individuals and different endeavors, even with charity organizations, or even if it's something personal that you are going through with your life. And I know for me, asking is really hard. Asking for a favor is so hard for me. And I found your book very helpful. And you're going to find out in this interview, we're going to ask her all about Laura's 5 laws of asking, which are really important. Great. We're going to talk about how to ask, the structure of asking. So thank you so much for coming on, and welcome to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics
Oh,
podcast.
thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get into this. And I've been following you, both of you. So it's great. It's a good topic and it's perfect for your audience.
It sure is.
Thank you so much. We agree. And, there are a lot of women who, for whatever reason at this time of life, could be changing careers, could be getting divorced, could be trying to figure out a new path. And they are just not comfortable asking for what they want. And I thought that the way your book is outlined is so easy to follow because you talk about the ask, and then you talk about the types of asking, the rules for asking, and then the 5 laws. So I thought maybe we would start out with the 3 rules of asking. And those 3 rules are: be prepared, be personal, and be present. Can you talk about the 3 rules?
Right. Be prepared. Well, a lot of times when we think about asking, let's just talk about the universe of asking. Okay. We literally think about it in our heads. We kind of know what we want. We pick the person that we think we're going to get it from, and out it comes. And so what I've done with this very important area is put organization, structure, and focus into an area that has largely been left to luck, chance, and time. So the 3 rules are very, very easy, but very easy to skip too. I've got that. I've got that. And I try to emphasize that in the book, that I've done this all the wrong way. I've done this all by mistakes. And if there's one thing I know people love, it's structure. If you give them the steps, they can follow. Just show me how to do this, Laura. What are the words? What are the tones? So, the first one is be prepared. And that is really know. And I just did a newsletter. It's coming out next week. I'll put to both of you on it, which is great. I'm going to walk you through because I really like this. How many of us watch Shark Tank, the world, right? But if you watch it, the people who walk away with the deals do the 3 rules, right? Be prepared. Number one, you're going to want to know the shark that you're going to target, because that person generally invests in your product or service. Okay. So yes, it's great. You want a deal. But if it's Lori Grenier and it's going to go on QVC, that's who you have to focus on. Right. And then think about what are the things she's invested in, what questions she may ask you, and what are you going to say back? I mean, that's all the preparation. Okay. And the other preparation is, let's say Lori's not interested. Who is the next person? So you see the preparedness, not just, I have this fabulous product, I want 500,000 for 10%. Whoever takes it, is a lot different mindset than going in there and knowing exactly what you want, who you want it for, and how to sell it. So that's be prepared. Second, be personable. And my favorite asking mantra is, your tone is as important as your words. Now, getting back to Shark Tank, think how many people just say the 2 words, I'm out, because you watch them being totally turned off to someone who's defensive, aggressive, speaking over the person, on and on. And their tone just was like those nails on the chalkboard. Your tone is as important as your words. And I tell people, practice. Everybody has the cell phone and everybody has a recording device. I recorded myself and I was horrified because I was saying one word over and over. I thought I have a fairly low voice, that's the way it is, but it sounded even lower on the phone. So I had to raise it up a bit. Your tone, more people will be invited to listen to what you want by your good, confident tone. Okay, so monitor that. And the third is be present. Zoom has helped us a lot of ways because all we do is stare at the squares, which is great. Now think about if we were doing this live, people would look out the window, what's going on here, look at the clock, the door opens, and you become very distracted. You may have one shot at your ask, so you've got to listen with presence. It's laser focus with your eyes. Make sure your body language is great. What your listeners may not know, but I stand up for every phone call and every interview. Why? My voice goes up, I have more energy, and you're going to lean in and listen. And nothing else exists. Nothing. All my phones are off. The doors are locked. That is it. The only people that matter right now is Colleen and Bridget. Those are the 3 rules.
That made me, I was reading your book and I was like, oh, I do have that stand-up desk. Do I have time to put that in here and do this? And I was like, I don't have time to get that in here and do this. But you have it all lined up in your book for the different types of situations, for the different types of interviews, whether it's live, whether you're over Zoom, whether it's a phone call. And you also talk about the environment that you were in for at the ask. Could you share a little bit about that, why the environment is so important?
It is. I've done a lot of asks over my 30 years, first in practicing law and then in philanthropy and then in my business with getting investors. And I found that most people, when they do an ask, I can tell it's the environment they're not comfortable in because the distractions begin. So, the rule is you always want to do the ask to where the person you're asking feels most comfortable. Now, I've done more asks in restaurants than I care to, but that's the time I could get that. And so how you have to control that environment is I want the table in the far corner. I go in before I pay the waiter or wait staff. Just after you drop the meal, do not come until I wave you over, because that's when I'm going to do it. There's ways to control the environment. If you have to, and thank you, Bridget, for pointing that out. If you have to do it on the phone, you have to say, I want this to be as if you're in the room with me. The environment is so important because the distractions can come in. And it's not that someone's going to say no to your ask. It's that the answer gets delayed. You kind of don't get to it. They kind of don't remember it. They're kind of thinking, what am I supposed to be thinking about? And then all the time fills in and you have to go around chasing them. So the environment is so, so important.
And, another thing that I think I'm jumping ahead, but you're talking about the environment. A big thing that struck me was ask that person how to address them. Just ask them, because you give great stories in your book that just give great examples as to this is what happened to someone and this is why you want to do it this way. Why is that important to ask someone how they want to be addressed?
Well, especially now, when people we can do a lot of assumptions that everyone wants their first name, but there's a lot of people out there that still want the title and maybe don't want the title. And there's a lot of people that, you may not know their sexual identity. That's a huge topic. So, that's really elevated now is like, how would you like to be addressed? And then you have such a bonding moment. They're going to be so apt to listen to you, and so, what I say, and, you've read it in the book, push away, the 2 tempters, and that is assumptions and expectations. You can't assume that you're going to go in there, it's a CEO and they want to be called Ms., Mrs., whatever. It's like, they might be want to call CEO Smith. And you're like, okay, that's how we roll, and just because they're a huge hedge fund investor, they might say, oh, just call me Sal, we're all good. So it just sets the right tone before you even get to the conversation.
You alluded to before the 3 temptations that can lure you from the ask. Can you talk about those temptations?
Luck, chance, and time.
Mm-hmm.
So many people say, well, everything's going well. This is great. They know me. It's going to work out. It's kind of like the Las Vegas ask. It's going my way. I feel good. I woke up. I'm dressed. They're smiling and it's all going to go well. That's luck. Chances, one of my favorite. If I ask 10 people, I really only need one yes, and all 10 asks get diluted because you've never made that one person feel like you're the person I picked. You're the only one I want you to join me with, on and on. So you do the thing, In fundraising, they did this and it was awful. You know, if you want $1,000, ask 1,000 people for $1. That is not what you do in fundraising. Okay. You pick the person who can make you the $1,000 gift. So that's, you know, that's the chance method. And time is probably the worst saboteur to this. And I've seen this and I've coached people on this. The more time I spend with the person who I want someone, you know, to do something for me, the more likely they're going to do it. This happens so much in sales. We take them out, we bring them to games, we invite them over for dinner, and the clock is ticking because you've done this, you've done this, you've done this, and they're just going to know that's what you want. And I don't need to ask. Well, by the way, you know, clue phone, you have to ask. So those are the three: luck, chance, and time. You've just got to like diminish them from any ask conversation. It will really, really weigh you down.
And then you also talk about the 25-75 rule, 25%, 75%. Could you share what that is?
Yes. And I really learned that the hard way because, you know, as a lawyer, we like to speak. And the thing is, if you keep speaking and people keep nodding, you think you won, right? So this is terrible. So I had to kind of etch a sketch my whole persona. And that is, you're there to listen, right? So the guidepost is, and you do that by asking good questions, which is why every ask ends on a question. You want to get more information so that you know where to go. If you keep talking and talking, literally, I've talked to people, they walk away and they are unsure what they're supposed to decide. So the rule is 25-75. Just keep asking questions and listen. And watch what happens. The more people are heard, feel like they've been heard, the more apt they are to help you. Right? Who doesn't want to be listened to? Right? Who? So if you give them the way to do that by constantly saying, "Can you explain that more? Did I get that right? I feel like this is going down the right path. Do you?" It's very easy to ask questions. So that keeps the balance of 25-75.
And that's in law number 4. So let's start with law number 1 of your 5 laws of asking. And the first law is know exactly what you want, dates and numbers, which is really interesting because if you think about it, when you ask something, you ask such a generalized question that people don't often know that you want. No, can you be here for a meeting on this date and this time? Or instead of saying, are you available to meet me? So can you talk about that?
I can. So, Colleen, tell me one ask you need to make in the next 2 weeks, and we're going to go through all 5 rules.
Okay.
Boy.
Personally and professionally. The
Okay.
Laura's laws are coming. Just tell me
so
one
I
thing.
would say
It makes it real.
Right. No, that's fine. I would say the first ask I have is I want to fill up the last remaining seats for our venue. So I would ask people to buy tickets to our event.
Good. So here we go. So we have an event and you need tickets.
Right.
Okay. An ask could be, we have this great venue and we only have 5 tickets left. Would you like to buy one? Not an ask. Okay. So what you're going to say is, what's the name of your event, Colleen?
Conversations. It's called Conversations with Prime Women.
Okay. So say, Bridget, I'm putting on Conversations with Brilliant Women on, what's the date of the event?
October 8th.
October 8th, 2023. Tickets are, how much are the tickets?
How much are they? 150?
Gosh, I think 126 after the discount.
Okay. Okay.
Tickets are 126 a piece. Sentence number 2. I would love for you to join us. Can you do that and let me know by this Friday? Now, it's the date of it. We know what it is, the ticket amount, and when you want the decision. Know exactly what you want with numbers and dates. Law number 1.
So law number 2 is write down 15 things you think the person will say and write down your responses. And I thought that was so smart because it makes you consider every variable. The only thing that I think would concern me is that some people don't wait until the question's finished because they already know what they're not listening. You know, like what we were talking about before, they're ready with their answer and they start answering before you even finish the question. But it's really a great way to think about it. to write down these questions. Can you talk about your second law?
The second law came out of this. The number one reason why people don't ask, it is they want to hear no. It is not that they fear rejection. The number one reason people don't ask, they're afraid they'll hear something they won't know how to respond to. So law number 2 takes care of that. You just make a list, a running list, and it's not just 15 for this person, 50 that you just keep making a running list. I think I'm up to 375 already responses. Okay. What will they say? So let's use your example, Colleen. You say, okay, I'm sorry, I'm busy that day, right? I can only afford $100. Who's the speakers? How many people are going? Is there networking opportunity? Can you give me another discount? If I bring 5 people, can I get it for 75? Just keep writing them down. Okay. I can't get to that venue. The airports are not convenient to where you are. You just have to think what's in their head. And then what will you say to each? Okay. It's not that you're going to jump the gun anticipating they're going to pick one of the 15. It's going to alleviate that horrible feeling of, I don't want deer in the headlights. I don't want to look unknowledgeable. I don't want to whatever. You're prepared. And you write because you'll remember it. You don't have to memorize it. You don't have to bring it with you. We all know the rule. If you write it down, probably you have a 65% chance of remembering it as opposed to the running, mental list in your head. Okay. Law number 2 sets you up for law number 3. Deliver with confidence. Out of all 5 laws, this is the one that skipped the most. I got this one. I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm whatever. And unless you have the right tone, standing up if you can, sitting down diagonally from the person, whatever it is, no one else exists but that. And you're treating each person the importance of getting each ticket sold at 126 by this Friday, it will come to you. But you gotta look and sound confident. You could do number 1, get all the facts right, bingo. Be prepared, number 2, on and on. If you can't deliver it, it's not coming to you. Okay. Number 2 sets you up for that confidence level. Law number 4, Laura's personal favorite. Clarify what you think you heard. Now that gets to something you had mentioned, Colleen. You're like, well, I'm so prepared for the 15. I'm going to hear this and they're going to say that. And now we're not on the same page. Okay. The biggest example, and something that probably would be number 12 for you, because I think we got up to about that amount. Oh, Colleen, that's great. I have to think about it. What do you say?
Well, what do I say? Well, if I gave her a Friday deadline, say, I hope you can let me know by Friday. Thanks. And if I don't hear back, then I move on.
Okay. So we're going to change that for you.
Okay. Okay.
The problem is you don't know the it. I have to think about it. What is the it? You can work that out right here during the ask. And you can get an answer right here during the ask. So what I recommend people say, use their first name or however they wish to be addressed. Thank you, Bridget. Say, to the extent you feel comfortable, that's my words. Can you share with me what you're thinking about? This is I'm here to help you. And now the ask becomes what I call a group hug. You've brought them in, you're having a conversation, and guess what? They tell you. It's like, well, I'm not comfortable going to live conferences quite yet. It's got nothing to do about money. It's got nothing to do about travel. It's got nothing to do about the cost. And we could make those assumptions. What it has to do with someone's comfort level of whether or not they want to be in a room with a lot of other people right now. And so now you work it out. Say, totally understand that. Okay. And tell them all the safety things you're doing. Okay. Do you see how you could resolve it right here? Okay. So let's say the person says, okay, you've addressed everything. I still want to take some time. And all I can say is law number 5, and you did this already. Fine. Can I call you Friday at 10 a.m.? Don't say I'll get back to you. Don't say I'll call you Friday. Give a specific time. Because if you don't, on average, it'll take 2.5 weeks for you actually to reach that person. Okay. You will not have sold the tickets you want by the timeline. You will not have reached that person. So those 5 laws, you'll get exactly what you want, done well and in order, and no skipping.
Yes. Yeah, you said that in the book. Go in this order,
No
don't skip
skipping.
around. And I think it, Colleen, I know you feel the way I do. I wish we had read this book 2 months ago when we were, in the plan for the event, but we still have time. We can still apply these things. Will we do that?
Can I ask, because I know, like, for example, I'm a former attorney as well, and I have absolutely no problem asking for whatever I want. But Bridget is uncomfortable with it. She does not feel comfortable in a situation asking a corporate sponsor or someone to come speak. How can she get over that kind of block that somehow, I mean, you would express it better than I would, Bridget, because it's you, but
Well,
that you're uncomfortable with
it
it.
is. Yeah. It's almost like an intimidation. And I think definitely it's in your book addressed where you just don't feel like they even want to talk to you. I think I did I did
You
one of
do
your
the 4
tests.
askers.
I
So which
did.
type did you
And
come out, Bridget?
I was wait a minute, was I an emphasizer? What was
Empathizer.
I? Empathizer. I was an
Yes, because you
empathizer.
put
Sorry.
yourself in the person's shoes.
Yes, that was what I was. So there, I just was like, yes, I'm agreeing. But I was, yeah, I totally did that. And I think the second one I only got one of negotiator. So
Negotiate. Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, Bridget, for you, and it's very common, which is why I started the book of let's take a quiz, get your baseline and move forward. And in there, I hope you saw, like, we know the challenges. You put yourself in the shoes of the other person. It does feel awkward. It does feel intimidating. It does feel like I'm going to get embarrassed. And it's very, very common. But there's also advantages and refinements. And each of the 4 askers has advantages and refinements. And some of the advantages are your sincerity, your honesty, you're very sweet to the core. And the refinements that I put in and for you and anyone else listening is honesty wins the day. Use it as your strength. Saying, listen, I'm not particularly good at this and I'm not particularly comfortable at this, but it's something I know I need to do. And I hope you have a little patience, but I need to ask you, use it to your advantage. Be honest. Trying to be someone else, trying to use different words, trying to use a different tone is going to come off insincere. And you don't non-genuine, and you don't want that. So use it as your strength, but be honest. A lot of times when I've asked a lot of people for a lot of money, I started out, and you could have all the research in the world saying this person has it and they should. Don't you love those terms? Say, I began it saying, I have no idea if you can do this, but what I do know is once you do, you will transform blank. And that's what it is. Because in any moment of time, do you truly know the person has that asset? You don't. They could have lost their job. They could have lost their house. They could have been in natural disasters happening around the globe, daily. You just don't know. So use it to your strength. Be honest. And you know what? People lean in and help you. It's not going to disadvantage your ask. It's going to just show them who you are, where you're at, and you're asking them to meet you.
And that was very helpful. Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah.
The quiz shows the negotiator, the empathizer, the presenter, and the charmer. Bridget, what would I fall into?
Oh boy.
You got to take it. You got to take the quiz.
Yeah.
I was reading through, but I didn't take the quiz.
Oh,
Negotiator,
I did take it.
probably.
I'm trying to think. Maybe the negotiator, Colleen.
I'm thinking the negotiator.
I'm looking at it again in my notes.
Well, take it and then send me an email and tell me which one.
You're also a presenter.
Yes.
You're also a presenter.
Right.
Yeah.
The difference between and I did the 4 because I know there's 4 types, having done this for so long. The presenter has a bit of each, and each has a bit of each, right? Has a bit of the charmer in there too. But the presenter is a type that just keeps talking about it, but doesn't quite get to the ask. And think of all the couching you're doing, and you're personable, and your people attract like magnets and on. This generally happens with a lot of people who, if you think of a politician and how well she or he speaks and they're charismatic, right? But do they ever get to what they really feel on the subject? No. Do they ever really get to say, well, I'm sorry, we have to raise your taxes by 15%? No. So that is really kind of like a presenting style.
But I will have to say, Colleen, you do get to the ask. You do.
Thanks,
I'm going to
Bridget.
have to clip. But she does. She's very good at that,
Okay.
getting
Well,
to the
and
ask.
I liked that you talked about that. What are the benefits of each one of these, and what are the negatives, and how do you refine them? I also thought it was really interesting because nowadays so many people work from home that the ask can be in person or it could be on Zoom, by telephone. There are benefits to each. How do you figure out the most beneficial way to do an ask when you're asking for, let's say, a corporate sponsor?
Great. Well, first of all, you have to figure out what's the best venue they like to be asked. And for Bridget, if you're going to be looking for corporate sponsorships, you can't assume that you've gotten them by email all the time. So an email is the way to ask, and people fall that into like, oh, they've gotten on Zoom, they've gotten on Zoom, they've gotten on Zoom, but they might not want to be asked for an important decision on Zoom. So, when you come down to it, obviously you're just not going to make a cold call and blur it out. We're the best thing here. You should support us. You have a relationship with them first. Just say, when the time comes for important discussions, where do you like to have them? How do you like to have them? Now, anyone who asks me, I will do this with you, but after 5 o'clock, it's the telephone, because I do this all day long and I'm in front of the computer all day long. So if you want to get a hold of me, it's the telephone. Now, if you didn't know that, you'd be, sending me Zoom links and whatever, and I'm going to ignore them. So, the first step is to get the person that you want to ask. And the second is really find out what that is. And that's why I put in the book all different ways to reach them. And then once you do reach them, how you do make the ask, everything from a text message to an email to a phone call to Zoom to the best way in heaven, in person.
And you also talk so important about the tone of each one of those and how that can come across, and how text can be seem so informal, and that
it can really put people off. And I think the most difficult text there, but I think emails are the most difficult ask, because you've got to get that subject title right, or it goes to spam, it gets ignored, or it just stays in the inbox. So I think, if someone says, oh, just shoot me an email, I think that's the hardest ask right now, because what will the title say?
Good point.
Do you have any suggestions for that? Yeah. And I guess it depends on the ask. Yeah,
Exactly.
It does. It does.
Mm-hmm.
You also talk about what happens when you get a no. Towards the end of the book, you talk about what do you do when you get a no? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, well, there's very good saying, no now means no never, and you really have to embrace every single word in that sentence. And that is if you hear no, generally you won't hear no, you'll hear a couched no. I don't think so. I can't do that right now. It's not a good time. I mean, no one's just gonna listen to your ask and sit there and say one word, no. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Okay. So when you get something that sounds like a no, make sure it is a no. Go back to law number 4. I heard you say this. Does this mean you cannot do this? I mean, like, no, I didn't say that. I'm just like, I'm not in a good mood. I don't want to decide that now. Oh, it wasn't no, it was the timing. Okay. Let's say you do get a no, something that sounds like a no. Your only job is to get to the why. Why is it a no? It's not. And Bridget, I'm going to come back to you with, if the person isn't going to buy the $126 ticket by Friday, move on. Do not move on. Stay with the person. Find out the why. Because you know what? This isn't a one and done conference for the both of you. You're going to have other opportunities, and you want that person to be invited to those opportunities. So you say, this is what I say. Thank you, first name, because then they wake up. Thank you for sharing that with me. Sentence number 1. Sentence number 2. I heard you say that you do not want to take part in our conference this year. That gives them the right to correct it. Sentence number 2. It is important to me to learn why, so that I can learn, get better at this, and maybe do an ask in a different way that maybe the next person will be able to do it. They will share with you what it is. It's like, well, my boss pays for these things that our budget's done. Okay. I've already invested in my personal development through June. I don't have the funds anymore. Whatever it is, it's that people would like to share with you the reasoning. So find out the why and go on. And whatever response you get in whatever they say back to it, this is what I say. Life is long. Is it okay if I circle back with you a couple months, see how you're doing? And maybe we have some other things that we can possibly put together. Don't leave it. You have spent time, money, and energy selecting the person that you want to do something. Why would you discard them and move on? Because that's how they feel when you end it that way.
Yeah, that was great advice. And in this book also, it's not just about the ask. You also address when somebody owes you money, when you need some help from your family, if you've got health situations. And can you talk a little bit about why these laws of asking are important in those situations?
I did the book hitting every category I possibly could. Of course, there's money and career, but there's also, as you said, Bridget, there's health, there's love, forgiveness, truth, spirituality. I hit every topic I could, and this is why. And people very rarely ask me, but I'm going to pretend like you asked me and shared it anyway. How did this book come about? This is number 7, and this is way different than all of them. Number 1, I've never been on the cover of my book, and that was terrifying. It was more work than writing the book, actually, because my writing coach, who was fabulous, Bonnie Hearn Hill, said, people have to know you. They have to see the voice behind this. I'm like, okay. So I was happy with that. This came out of COVID. Okay. During that period, to which we don't want to talk about again, people were calling me out of the blue. How do I leave my husband? How do I tell my kids to get out of the house? How do I tell my boss, I'm not putting up with this anymore? How do I tell my kids they're not getting a dog? How do I tell my significant other, we have to move out of the city and buy a second place? How do I tell my parents, I can't risk my health and see you? It was coming and coming and coming. So the book title came first. These were hard asks, and my job was to make it easy. The second was to show everyone there is one ask across the entire plane. It doesn't matter if you're asking for help. It doesn't matter if you're asking for an investment. It doesn't matter if you're asking your doctor, I don't understand, you got to give me something more. 2 sentences and a question will get you by any ask, no matter what degree. If you want $5 or 5 million, it's the same. And so that's why I put all these categories in so everyone could relax. What was happening is it was going up and down, kind of like, the stock market thing. It's like, oh, I want my kids to do something. I'm just going to do this. Oh, I've got to talk to my boss and ask him for more time off. I'll do it this way. If you do it all the same way, I've shown you the structure to get you through, to relax you so that you'll do it more. My pain is that all the people who called me were postponing their life because they couldn't ask. They didn't want to ask. And I'm going to tell you physiologically what that does to you when you don't put yourself first.
And
it damages your health. Whether I can see it in people, I coach people this way, and I can see it. And I'm like, you have got to step forward and do this. And the only way you're going to do it is follow the 5 laws and step into your space.
And that is so important, especially for women, that our audience, that is the main people who listen to us. Just it hits so many areas. Well, first of all, just in their careers, and when you bring in the medical part too, that is a big thing.
Especially the medical, when they go to the doctors. We really want to recommend this book, guys. It's Hard Ask Made Easy, how to get exactly what you want. It's so helpful. Bridget, if you're watching the video, Bridget is holding up the book, but they're so important that we understand how to ask and the power behind the right ask. So Laura, thank you so much for writing this book and for spending time with us today answering our questions. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Well, we learned together. I've learned as much from you as you have from me. And of course, I have to do an ask. So thank you for pitching the book. And for all your fabulous listeners, if you can, just do a 1 or 2 line on Amazon. It really helps. It made it become the #1 in business negotiating and coaching, which I'm thrilled about. And the more people get the word out by reading your stellar reviews, the more people we can help. And that's my goal.
Well, our answer is yes, we are happy to do that. So thank you
Thank you.
so
I'm counting
much.
on the both of you.
We're happy to do it. Thank you so
Thank
much.